we'll turn to questions now. And I think both Gilda and Jessica have questions, I think, for you, Amishi.
We are ready. So much important. I have to say that, we've hosted Bruce Perry twice. He has talks to us about the importance of connection. I really love the way that you've taken connection and aligned it with a connection and attention. That's something that is new, I have to say, and I love it. It's a beautiful illustration and simple, and so like your analogy with the flashlight. Um, so we have parents here, we have teachers here, we who will touch those students that we want so desperately to touch. Can you share a simple exercise that we can do that we can then teach to these young people?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give one that is very helpful to do. You can do it while you're at school. You can do it when you're in your car. And it's something called, I mean, there's many we could give, but I'll give this one. It's called the stop practice. And essentially, it's like a mini mindfulness practice, and it has all the elements of a mindfulness practice, right? So, STOP is an acronym for stop, meaning do it sometime you're actually physically stopped. You could be waiting for the elevator, waiting for people to pass you in the hallway, waiting in line somewhere. Anytime you're stopped, you stop, basically. But you're also going to stop sort of the ongoing momentum of your mind. So it's stop, take a breath, and that's essentially just one mindful breath, aware that you're taking the breath. So that's S and T, take a breath. O, observe. So you're going to just kind of watch what's going on. And then P, proceed, move on your way. So just even in the car, using the stop practice when you're driving together, etc. It's a in the Mind Up program, they call them brain breaks. It is sort of it's a brain break, but it's also essentially a little brain exercise that you're doing to bring your attention back to the here and the now, this quality of this accepting, curious, observational stance.
Beautiful. Excellent. I love that. Jessica, you are up with a question.
Yes, I think we're all hungry for these strategies, right? So I was in the same mindset as Gilda shared there. And I really appreciated kind of the combination of both of your work and how you're bringing it together. And I think as a school leader, right, and thinking about our schools, we're constantly thinking about how do we provide an environment in our schools that is welcoming and inclusive. People feel a sense of belonging, that they're able to focus on and learn, right, with the ultimate goal of learning and growing and figuring out who they want to be, right, for like learning and taking risks to be able to take on new challenges and hopefully find something that gives them passion and gives them joy. So when we're thinking about those strategies, I like that specific strategy you gave for kind of an independent individual to think about that stop mentality and some of these other curriculums from a more systemic approach, right? Because obviously both of your work is very much from a systemic lens. Are there things that maybe I know this is probably a whole book, right? But can you think of anything that you would say in how we honor that environment and that culture? How do we foster that environment and culture where we are providing that positivity and positive outlook, but not at the expense of being fake and being not letting people own the challenges and the difficulties of their day to day, but they have that sense of safeness and ability to take risks. So just like, what did you come across that allows for those cultures to exist, right, in school?
Yeah.
Because that's the magic potion we're all trying to figure out, right? So that there's, depending, no matter what the story is of the thousands of kids that walk in our halls, how do we make this a place where they feel seen, heard, and safe to be able to take those risks?
Absolutely. It's a big question. I actually want to see, I'm curious what Kim has to say. She spent a lot more time sort of in the school context. Is there anything you'd like to start us off with to answer this question?
I think, so Jessica, I'm not going to put too much pressure on you, but it actually starts with the school leader and the superintendent. So I feel that we really have to really have things. What we know from the research is to have a system change, you need the leader to be on board and to sanction it and to make it intentional. And so that is so critical, so I love, you're going to be so amazing. I know you will be, just for the way that you spoke about things and things. And so, but it really starts with that idea of trying to have system change and starting both with the leader empowering all of the everyone within the system to feel that this is something sanctioned, that this is something that we can do, you know. And then also, I guess for me, and really seeing things that are successful and sticky, is you actually have also some grassroots where you have people on the ground who really are buying into those things as well. So you kind of have both a top-down approach in a way that's caring and, you know, but also doing that, but also have honor the voices, you know, and keeping those things going. But and Amishi, I imagine it's very similar in the
It
military.
is.
First
Yeah, I mean, I would say that again, leadership really, really matters. So I think that the fact that you're asking that question bodes very well. And then ongoing and consistent opportunities to offer the actual training, and it doesn't have to be an added burden, right? It can be over the course of the day, beginning the first, you know, at Google, they have something called a moment to arrive, where the first minute of every meeting is essentially a short practice to get everybody there. You're not at the last meeting or the one you're about to have, you're at this one. And then acknowledging things like, you know, 50% of the time our mind is wandering. So how does that mean that we're going to interact with each other? How does that mean the classroom climate is going to be? So integrating, so I would say the notion is sort of accessible, like we said, a decent amount of a lift. Scalable, meaning we empower people within schools to actually continue bringing these practices in, and system-wide. It cannot be pocketed here and there. It has to be accepted as part of what's going on. Now, it may be, I'm just going to say this because a lot of people may be thinking that, you have to have a very bold and brave leader to do this, because it may be feeling like you're going against the grain. But at this moment in time, when we talk about mindfulness training, I mean, the evidence is actually amassing to the point where I think we're on very solid ground. So not only in terms of individual well-being, improvement in prosociality, improvement in academic achievement, improvement in retention for teachers in schools, improvement in physical health. I mean, the benefits are quite profound. So I think from the evidence point of view, it's there. But also a lot of times people will say, yeah, but that's like a soft skill. And like, do we really need it? Well, I'll tell you, the reason I'm going to say this is because it's the most potent skill. In fact, it's so powerful that right now, you know, we're offering it to special operations forces. So this is, if you're going to call those guys soft, good luck. But this is a very, very tough, mental toughness oriented approach to strengthening the mind to ensure, you know, essentially good psychological health and optimized performance. So I agree with Kim. I'm very excited about you taking on this leadership role, because you may end up being sort of the case study on how to successfully integrate it and continue to see the proliferation of sort of goodness within a community come from that leadership. So thank you in advance for doing that.
Thank you so much. What I hear is that normalizing the time and space for this, right? And building that in as part of your
and that's something, I mean, that's where we can, the plan on how to do that, we're here to support, because there are specific things that we would recommend to do. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Laura Brandt next is a psychology teacher and a huge fan up in Libertyville. So Laura, your question, take it away.
Thanks so much for doing this. It's so great to hear about your research. And I know that you've worked with the military, but because so many of us are here, are educators, and to make that a system-wide, it's just something that a district does. This is just who we are, and this is what we do here. Do you have any recommendations for that initial buy-in, perhaps from faculty or students? Or would you suggest, I know like when you rolled it out with the military, it was sort of a mandate, and that initially people might have been a little bit reluctant, but as soon as they saw that it worked, they were really kind of on board. So can you just speak to that in terms of like those initial steps? Because the evidence is so overwhelming that this is effective, but how do you get people who haven't maybe been familiarized yet with the research on board with these practices?
Yeah, I mean, I think webinars like this are a great way to start, so that they can understand that this is not some strange, weird thing that people are doing, you know, nowhere. It's actually happening everywhere. And I think that the approach, the solutions to this, first of all, I would say, do not mandate mindfulness. I would say that is a no-go. It will not work. What we want is something so compelling that people will just want to do it themselves, right? And so part of that will be giving them opportunities and introducing it in ways. So it could be essentially having, like I said, an invitation for a minute over the course of the beginning of every class to do it. And that could be either pressing a recording if the teacher doesn't want to do it themselves. So, and then offering, I would say, starting with the kind of the culture of the school. So offering it to the leadership, offering the training to teachers. And that's what we did actually with the same program we offered service members and military spouses. We actually offered to teachers at a school here. And it was, again, training teachers to train other teachers. So it wasn't outsiders coming in. It was saying, here, I've learned this program. Here's how I think it works best. And here's how to actually do it. So it is not really grassroots in the sense that it's being introduced in a very formal way, but it's being done in a way that's context relevant. And it's not an outsider. It's actually coming from the inside. And then, of course, I would say we see the contagion, as Kim was describing, to the entire student body as well. And now we're at a moment where students know about mindfulness. They might download apps themselves and do it themselves. I know my daughter, she told me that she was actually practicing before she'd have a dance competition or before taking an exam. She would just kind of breathe for a few minutes, and it would really help her stay in the right headspace to perform. But I think you asked a really good question, and the fact that you're asking it gives me hope that there will be ways that we can make this happen, and we have good evidence of how to guide it to happen well.
This is our last question this morning. You are both, Kim and Amishi, you are both parents. And so what is it that you do with your children to bring this into your family?
You want to go first, Kim?
Well, it's so funny because I will tell you that my boys probably are the ones who monitor me more closely with my attention, because my boys are 25 and 28, and we'll be at the dinner table and they're like, "Mom, put away your phone." So I somehow train them very well, I guess, and they, I think that I think it isn't that we, I don't talk a lot about my research. My boys both know what I do and things like that. But we really, I think for me as a parent, I've really prioritized their happiness and them being kind people. Like I have to say, like, of course they're doing well, all that kind of stuff. But I think as a parent, just giving them, making sure we have that time that we're present with each other, really that presence and spending time together and being present. But anyways, like I said, they're probably better than I am.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the approach that we've taken. I mean, again, my children are adults at this point. I have an 18-year-old and 21. But throughout the time they were growing up, essentially, it was never something that it's the same response to Laura, never mandated. But there were times, especially if they knew I had a big thing coming up, that they'd see my husband and I were sitting in the living room. It's going to be quiet for 12 minutes. So can you just let us be quiet? So it was just around and available. And that's why it sort of surprised me, because I wasn't saying you should do it. I was talking about what I found to be beneficial and the circumstances in which I found it to be beneficial, and then there to support. So, did you want to try it? Happy to help you do it. But I wanted them to kind of see it as something that was a tool that somebody that I would hope saw as a successful, thriving person in their lives, leaned on. And it is very heartwarming now to find that essentially at some level, both children are incorporating this in their own ways into their lives. And I'll say that their universities are offering resources for them to be able to do that more formally. That's also a huge deal for me. It's not just that they have to do it alone. There are mindfulness clubs. There are people that come together. Every university has sort of their intro to, college experience where mindfulness is introduced. So I would say begin with your impulse is to give it to your kid, really begin with yourself. Really begin with yourself. And if nothing else, they might ask you, "Hey, what's going on? You seem a little more chill these days, Mom." So
There it is again, the modeling, isn't it? Kids hear 1% of everything we say and 100% of everything we do. You want to pick up this book. I got mine at the bookstore at O'Hare. It's everywhere. Peak Mind. You need it. And you tell us as soon as that app is ready and we will share it out.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So lovely to have these amazing women from the western suburbs of Chicago. It's lovely. This is where we go hug the kids. So we're going to go hug the kids now.
All right. Thank you very much.